everybody, hope you're doing well. I am out of town right now, but I wanted to do a video about an article that I read a couple of days ago in the Moscow Times. It had to do with the 2017 Russian ban on Jehovah's Witnesses, and basically the title of the article was Russian Special Agents Raid Jehovah's Witnesses Resort or Home as crackdown continues. I've put a link to the article down in the description box for you to read it yourself, but you know, many of you know that this Russian government Supreme Court issued a ban on Jehovah's Witness activities within Russia, but it was not because they are being persecuted, because they're the only true religion on the face of this earth, which was what we were always taught, right? We were always taught that the nations were going to turn against us when they realized that we were the only true religion out of their jealousy. The reason Russia banned Jehovah's Witness activities, or the Supreme Court there did, was because of their extremist views. And I wanted to talk about a couple of beliefs and practices of the Jehovah's Witnesses and try to figure out if they're extremist or not. The ban in Russia involves dissolving real estate and assets of Jehovah's Witnesses and handing over these assets to the state. One big issue surrounding the Supreme Court's decision was their practice of refusing blood transfusions. And you have to wonder, is that considered extremist? And what is an extremist? Actually, what is that definition? Well, it's taking things to an extreme level, maybe to a fanatical level. So I had a friend years ago who was in a car accident. He needed a blood transfusion. He refused one. The doctor said if he took a blood transfusion, he'd survive. He didn't. He refused, and he died. Is that extremist because he refused it on the basis of the teachings of the Jehovah's Witness organization, run by a body of 8 men who freely state in their publications that they are not inspired? It just shows you the hold that is being placed on the publishers of this organization. Now we have people in Russia, Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia, who are being imprisoned. They're facing torture, potential torture. They're being fined because they're practicing their religion. It's just amazing, this grip and stronghold that these people are under. There was a recent, either it was a JW broadcasting video or a magazine article, I can't remember, you can actually Google it and find it easily, that Jehovah's Witnesses were celebrating children who refused blood transfusions and lost their lives. Is that considered extremist? What about showing videos at conventions where young children are present about Jehovah's Witnesses huddling in a bunker and outside the military coming for them with the very, very large guns, telling them to be brave and courageous, and then the next scene they wake up in paradise? Subliminally telling people they were killed, they were murdered for their faith of this organization run by 8 men who are not inspired by God. Is that extremist? When I was a kid, the publications were filled with this kind of stuff. I was terrified, petrified. Pictures of buildings falling on people and screaming faces. I used to look at the pictures. You look at the screaming face, you know, and I knew some of the artists at Bethel, and I would think to myself, what are they thinking when they're drawing these pictures? That face looks so scary. Why do they have to make it look so scary? Well, it didn't come from God. It was coming from an organization that was not inspired by God. But anyway, showing children pictures of destruction and devastation and telling children that if they don't convert their childhood neighborhood kids that they're going to die at Armageddon, is that considered extremist? I mean, you have to come to the conclusion, I think so. Does the inability of an individual, a publisher, being unable to research their own religion, to research even their own back publications, cause alarm? Is that extremist? I would have to say it's extremist. What about victims of child molestation who are forced to tell their story to 3 men, older men, in a judicial committee about their abuser, who oftentimes is friends with the elders? They have to graphically tell their story, and according to the Australian Royal Commission, face their abusers and say, yeah, he's the one that did this, this, and this to me. And the fact that these elders in this judicial committee are dealing only with the sin, leaving the crime of child molestation up to Jehovah, which enables the perpetrator, the abuser, to roam free in the congregation, not telling the parents, other witnesses, so they don't even know there's a threat. And then having this guy knock on doors on Saturday mornings. There's something wrong with that. That's extremist. You know, I have a story to tell, but I'm not going to do it yet. It has nothing to do with me. I was never sexually molested. It has to do with a man, a brother in the congregation. He was not an elder. That was always hanging around. Another elder took him under his wing. He was always hanging around, always hanging around. It wasn't until, that's when I was a teenager, it wasn't until I ran into an old friend, an old Jehovah's Witness friend about 10 years or so ago who is out now. She said, hey, remember this guy so-and-so in the congregation? I'm like, yeah, he sexually molested me. And you know what? I believe her. And here's my theory on this. I believe this guy, this brother, I know he was accused. I know there was a judicial committee, and she told me they didn't believe me. It was heartbreaking. I believe this man sexually molested her, went before the elders. It was hush-hush. She told me it was hush-hush. And then an elder was told to put him under his wing. It all makes sense to me now why things changed for that guy, and I always saw him in a different light. Anyway, I know that may not have made a lot of sense, but that's about all I could say about that. But that's extremist. When we have a child molester in our midst, I do believe her, and nothing is done. Nobody calls the police. Nobody does a rape test on the girl. Here's the deal with Russia. This is what is so sad to me. You know, you have to separate the governing body, the organization, from the publishers. The organization, the guys at the top, they are the ones at fault. They are the ones who, thank God, they're defendants now as a result of prior sexual molestation that they had guided the elders not to call the authorities and report it as a crime. But you have to look at the publishers. The publishers, they think they're just serving God. They're being deceived And they're under such intense control that they just can't see clearly. You have them in Russia still worshiping God through these 8 men who are not inspired. Publications told us that. They're being sent to jail. They're being fined. And it's not necessary. It's just not necessary at all. We need to pray for these people. They're thinking that all their fears are coming true, that this is Armageddon, and it's just not. When the governing body members, JW Broadcasting and the publications are telling Jehovah's Witnesses to obey the elders, even when it doesn't seem right, and we know that they're showing them videos of the need to hide in a bunker and hide in the basement, I have to wonder what's coming next. Can it possibly be another Jonestown? I always worried about that. That movie came out years ago about Jim Jones and how 900 people killed themselves in Guyana. And I just had a shiver go through me because I just pray to God, this organization, it doesn't come to that. Are these governing body members ever going to say, hey, you know what, you guys? It's over. It's all over. It was good, while we had it. But it's all over. You can go home now. You don't have to go to the meetings. It was all a farce. No. What's going to take them down? And who's going to be there to pick up the pieces for these publishers? I'm alarmed, and Jesus said, my yoke is light and my burden is not heavy. Jesus died for us. We don't have to follow men. If we put our faith and trust in Jesus Christ, and it's a simple prayer, Jesus, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore on my own. I look to you. I want you to be Lord of my life. You are my God. And I want to walk through the door that is you. I don't want to serve this organization anymore. He'll transform you. He'll give you that peace that transcends all understanding. I'm just alarmed by this, and I just wanted to remind everybody that this is what's going on in Russia. They're being banned for their extremist views, extremist theology, not for the fact that they're the only true religion on earth. And anyway, I welcome your comments, and keep them in your prayers. Have a great day, you guys.